We're delighted to launch our May 28th Import Irish Art Sale. And really the true highlight of the sale has to be the collection that comes from Deepwell in Blackrock. This was the home of the businessman John Reihill, who died last year, and the house has just sold, and thus the paintings have come to market. This collection was accumulated by 2 generations of the same family over an 80-year period. And that's very significant. Many of these paintings have never been seen in public because they were commissioned directly from the artist, or they were bought from galleries back 70 or 80 years ago. And so it's very significant and very exciting to have these pictures and sculptures on the market for the first time. There are over 50 pieces from that collection, and they form the great and the good, the contemporary pictures which would have been added to the collection by John Reihill Sr., and then more recently John Reihill Jr. would have been adding to the collection once he resided at Deepwell from the 1970s. So he would have added things like Roderic O'Conor and more contemporary painters like Louis Le Brocquy.
The Roderic O'Conor painting, Landscape with Buildings, is from about 1889, and it was thought that it was exhibited at the Salon des Indépendances in Paris in 1890. Painted in the area around Grèze, which was a popular haven for artists, and particularly for the group of artists that studied under Carolus Duran in Paris. So it's a very important work in Roderic O'Conor's oeuvre. It represents his growing awareness of the techniques and the qualities of the Impressionists.
The collection was formed over 80 years. So John Reihill Sr. would have started the collection in the 1930s. He would have commissioned such works as the Sean Keating, The Port Authority, around 1941. Now, this is a very significant painting showing them unloading the turf boats on the Aran Islands. But we sort of forget when we see all these lovely Irish views of big fires that there's no indigenous turf on the Aran Islands. So the importation of turf onto the Aran Islands was a major activity, and the painting is called The Port Authority, and basically it refers to all the old codgers that would have come along and would have been standing around and discussing the affairs of the day. It would nearly be like a market day on the Aran Islands when the turf was coming in. So this was quite a significant commission for Keating, commissioned around 1941, exhibited in the RHA in 1942.
One of the other main highlights is the wonderful work by Jack Butler Yeats entitled A Dusty Rose. It was painted in the year 1936, and it's part of a loose series of works that he painted depicting roses, but they're all in various stages of wonderfulness, descending into decay in some of the later ones. There's about 4 of them, but this is about the 3rd picture in that series. And it depicts the rose in a vase in a room in his home. And what makes this particular one different to the other ones is that it is seen in the vase within the context of the interior, whereas the other ones are all very much depictions of the rose in a vase against the backdrop of the mantelpiece. Beckett, who visited Yeats in his studio around this time, commented on the fact that this particular picture was significantly different from the other ones because it had the backdrop of the room as opposed to it just being a concentration on the rose. This particular picture is estimated at 50 to 70,000. But of course, Yeats's pictures have made as much as €1 million with us back in 2011.
This is one of the more significant pieces from the Deepwell collection. It's called Biro by William Connor. William Connor would be one of Northern Ireland's best known painters. Now, the significance of this painting is that it is the dockers on their lunchtime break, which they called Biro. And family legend would have it that although it has the tricolour in the distance, that these are actually in a Belfast pub and not on one of the pubs down on the quays in Dublin. He was a great depictor of the working man, and no matter how hard their life was, they always seemed to be enjoying themselves and they always seemed to have wonderful smiles on their faces. Connor used to go and he used to hide his little sketchbook in another book and he would sketch constantly, but he was sort of the Irish Lowry, and would depict the working class of both Dublin and Belfast. As well as paintings, we have a wonderful selection of sculptures included in the sale as well, the most significant of which would be a collection of works by Jerome Conor. Jerome Conor was born in Anniscull in the late 19th century. This work was commissioned in 1940. It's called The Bellman. It's a unique piece. It's really a museum quality piece. The last time it was seen in public was in the National Gallery when it was shown in the Jerome Conor retrospective there. And he's probably regarded as one of the most significant sculptors of the mid-20th century.
This is one of my personal favourites from the Deepwell collection. It is a tapestry by Louis Le Brocquy. It's entitled Cuchulainn. It was produced in 1977 by the world-renowned tapestry makers Tabar in Aubusson in France, and it's one of an edition of 9. It represents the faces of the massing armies from the Táin series that Louis Le Brocquy produced to accompany Thomas Kinsella's translation of the Táin. A truly wonderful piece.
I think what's very exciting about the sale is the fact that you have fresh pictures coming to the market, many of which haven't been seen in 70 or 80 years. The collection itself came to prominence probably in September 2011 when another painting from that collection, Jack B. Yeats's Fair Day Mayo, which had an estimate of 500,000, actually went on to sell for €1 million, which is the highest price ever paid at auction in Ireland for a painting.
There were lots of very buyable pieces of art in this sale, ranging in value from a few €100 upwards. But one that springs to mind is a wonderful piece of coloured glass by the young Irish artist Killian Schurmann. And it's a piece that was produced in the year 2000, which was presented to the broadcaster Mike Murphy on the occasion of the Late Late tribute show in his honour. It is being sold by Mike to benefit the Peter McVerry Trust. I think this sale in particular has such a wide breadth of spectacular work, and not just spectacular in terms of values. There ranges from a few €100 up to a couple of 100,000. But what it does show is the wealth of talent and the wealth of quality of work that is represented by Irish artists. So we've got everything from small pieces of bronze right through to the most wonderful and spectacular paintings.